96.7 KCAL rocks. It is your Thursday, which means it's time to talk some sports. And we got a few things to talk about with our guy, Pep. What's going on, Pep?
Yo, Patrick, listen. Hey, there's a lot to be thankful for this time of the year. But right now, I'm just thankful that USC versus UCLA is actually a big, meaningful game this late in the season. You know, last year, the Bruins hammered USC. I don't know if people remember this, but UCLA destroyed USC 62-33. Now, obviously, USC has a lot on the line this time around, trying to get in that college football playoff. They look to be like one of the best teams in the nation. Listen, UCLA lost a tough game, a game they should not have lost to Arizona this past week. But I feel like this time around, this game is going to be very, very close between the Bruins and the Trojans. What do you think, Patrick?
Absolutely. I mean, how funny is it going to be that this game is the crosstown is kind of a big deal. It has big implications. And you're right. I mean, USC has showed up to the party, obviously with Caleb Williams and Mr. Lincoln Riley. But yes, this looks to be a very serious game. Two very good teams.
Yeah, and I can't remember the last time this was a big game or there was big implications or both teams were having great seasons. It's been a while, so that's what makes this game a lot of fun. It is a big rivalry, but for both of them to be ranked in the top 25, I mean, USC could go to the college football playoff. UCLA could end up in the Rose Bowl. Like, there's a lot on the line when you look at the big picture for both of these teams. So the other thing I wanted to point out, too, for USC, going back to their last game and that last victory, they lost their starting running back, Travis Dye, the pride of Norco High School, the Oregon Duck transfer. And not only was he a great running back, Patrick, but he was kind of the heart and soul of that team. He was the leader in the locker room. So I'm just curious what USC is going to look like and who's going to step up and be that leader with Travis Dye injured. It looked like a pretty significant leg injury.
Definitely. I think it's very serious, and it is very reminiscent of Friday Night Lights. I cannot remember the player, but their star player was out, and he kind of has to be – the coach is like, hey, do it for him. Yeah. You know what I mean? And a lot of the players were like, okay, I mean, hopefully that situation can happen. Travis Dye, he was the man. But seeing the cart, and even LA Times had a great photo of Caleb Williams kind of standing there facing the cart and just watching Travis Dye get driven off. It was very depressing, very heavy photo.
Yeah, Travis Dye means a lot to that team in a lot of different ways to USC. So he's going to be a big loss when they play UCLA this Saturday. But maybe that's going to level the playing field a little bit. I mean, if UCLA had a chance, and I know there's a lot of people that think UCLA was the favorite anyways, but to be for USC to be without their starting running back, who's also an emotional leader, I think that's going to hurt. Travis Dye is just one of the good guys out there in college football, so I know they're definitely going to miss him. But it should be a lot of fun this weekend, USC and UCLA. Finally, it's a big game for both sides.
Right. It just looks like the slight adjustment of maybe Travis Dye kind of being the locker room dude that he still is, and then running back by committee. The kids underneath him, or that's basically what they're going to do.
Yeah, sure looks like it. Yeah, because he was the workhorse. He was putting in a lot of yards and doing a great job, the pride of Norco High School.
It's your chance to step up, kids. Yeah. This is your chance.
Seize the opportunity, right, is what the college coaches like to say. Seize that opportunity, next man up. So, Patrick, with that all said, let's take a look real quick at the new college football playoff. It is unchanged from the previous week. The top 4 teams in the country, it's Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU. So those would be the national semifinals, Georgia versus TCU, Ohio State versus Michigan. USC only in at number 7, so they're on the outside looking in. But again, Ohio State's playing Michigan head-to-head. LSU is going to be playing Georgia in the SEC championship game. So there's still big games that will absolutely affect those 4 national semifinals. So USC still absolutely has a path to that playoff.
I mean, remember when there was all that talk of expanding the playoffs was going to ruin everything? We need it to be this big. Look at all these good teams. Yeah. USC is at 7, but they're a threat. You know what I mean? And Georgia is still doing their thing. There's a lot of good teams with the NIL thing. I think it really evened out the playing field across the country, and it was going to have to expand anyways. Everyone who thought it was going to ruin with more people in the playoff, they were wrong. I like how it's set up.
Yeah, there's maybe a dozen teams that feel like, hey, depending on what other teams do, if there's some losses out there, maybe there's still a chance. And for USC, let's say they beat UCLA, they beat Notre Dame, they beat whoever in the Pac-12 championship. Let's say it's Utah. Like, those are some good wins. Like, how do you not put them in to the top 4 teams in the nation, depending on what happens in the SEC and the ACC and some of those other games. But yeah, UCLA or USC still very much in the hunt if they can beat UCLA. It all starts this weekend for them.
And then I think just quickly, I think TCU is a great example of how the playoff system is working. Yes, a lot of people believe they shouldn't be there, right? And hey, they may get blown out, but they still have the opportunity to do it themselves. And I think that's what matters. I don't care if they get blown out, but if they do well, they get the opportunity to do it themselves. And that's what matters. Let the teams decide.
Yeah, you know what? I'm totally with you, Patrick. TCU is undefeated. They've beaten some good teams. I feel like they deserve a shot, and I know there's people out there saying, well, LSU or Alabama, there's Clemson, they're still better than TCU.
Tennessee or whatever.
But man, the Horned Frogs have beat everybody in front of them. They've done what they're supposed to do. If they win out, give them a chance.
Definitely.
So I'm with you right there, brother. All right, NFL, we got an interesting game tonight. Tennessee against Green Bay, 2 teams that I thought did not have a realistic chance of, getting to the playoffs or making a serious playoff run. But all of a sudden, Tennessee's coming on strong. Aaron Rodgers, dipped into his bag of tricks and found some magic in that win against the Dallas Cowboys and led his team back to a win. So all of a sudden, our Thursday night foosball game, it's kind of intriguing right now. I'm kind of into it. Titans and Packers tonight.
It is funny how we thought that, they're done, but it is not over until it's over. We got action in college and we got action in the NFL too. It's a good time for football.
Yeah, and again, from the NFL from week to week, I know it's getting late in the season, so teams are falling farther behind. You feel like, oh man, they're not going to battle back. They're not going to challenge for the division title or the playoff spot. But I feel like every single week, there's just something different out there. Something happens. You're like, okay, well, maybe Green Bay's improving. Maybe they are going to be a force in the NFC. Or Tennessee. Tennessee gave Kansas City all they could handle last season. So it's like maybe these teams are going to figure some things out as we get to the back half of the regular season.
Right.
And speaking of the Chiefs and Chargers this coming Sunday, that's a huge game. If the Chargers have any shot of possibly dethroning Kansas City in the AFC West, which the Chiefs look like the team to beat in the AFC, period. But if they've got a chance, they've got to win this head-to-head matchup this weekend against old Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
It's going to be tough, man. The Chiefs are being the Chiefs, if you will.
Yeah, even with Tyreek Hill. I mean, I know what the Miami Dolphins are doing, and they look great. And Tyreek Hill's having a huge season, and maybe he is the NFL MVP right now. But Kansas City has not skipped a beat without Tyreek Hill. They've got Travis Kelce. They got a bunch of receivers I don't even necessarily know by name, but they all seem to catch the football, make plays. So, yeah, Kansas City, at least in my estimate, probably the team to beat right now in the AFC, especially with, Buffalo coming off that tough loss to the Vikings. So, I don't know. I mean, it feels like Kansas City's Kansas City again.
Speaking of Buffalo, just quickly, did you see they might be possibly moving that game because it may be the worst snowstorm in U.S. history, possibly 5 to 7 feet of snow, or 4 to 6 feet of snow, a ton of snow. They may be moving that game.
Part of me is like, yeah, I get it, but part of me is like, no, I want to see them play that game in 4 feet of snow. 4 feet of snow. I want to see that.
I think it's just so much snow that everybody's stuck. You know what I mean? They might move it to Detroit and play inside the Ford Field.
Listen, that's why you play in Buffalo. For that home field advantage, right? You want it cold, you want it snowy, but maybe they figure, hey, the teams, the fans, the officials, nobody can get to the game if there's that much snow on the roads and the commute there. Maybe that goes into their thinking, but man, I would love to see a game in a snowstorm like that.
I mean, some lake effect they talked about is going to make possibly the worst snowstorm in U.S. history. That's wild.
Man, that is wild, but we'll see. I'd love to see Buffalo find a way to play that home game with all that snow out there.
Yeah.
And Patrick, finally, let's talk baseball real quick. Today, later this afternoon, Major League Baseball will announce the MVP awards. And the award I specifically want to look at is in the American League, because we talked about this quite a bit actually the last several weeks and months, is who deserves it more? Shohei Ohtani of your Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, or Aaron Judge, who had a historic home run season for the Yankees. I mean, this is probably the toughest MVP race I've seen in a long time, because both these guys, any other season would be a slam dunk, a lock for the MVP.
Absolutely. But I mean, it is tough to compete with Shohei because he's like a different type of animal. I think it should be Aaron Judge, even though if we want to talk about skill and all that stuff, it'll definitely point you towards Ohtani. But the Angels are terrible, and I think that is part of it. You know what I mean? And Aaron Judge did something that we had never seen in forever.
No, that is part of it. Shohei Ohtani was the MVP last year, and most people agree he was even better this year. So if he was the MVP last year, he definitely deserves it this year. But the problem is, you're right. Aaron Judge played on a really good team. Ohtani didn't, and Aaron Judge did something that no one else has done in the American League, period, ever. So if Aaron Judge was going to get the MVP, this would be the season, even though Ohtani was even better than last year's MVP campaign.
Also, the most valuable argument does kind of work for Judge for me because he carried that team a lot. Yes. Sometimes those bats would go silent for the Yankees and not for Aaron Judge. So he was valuable in that sense, and that he carried the whole team by himself. Very tough to do in baseball.
No, he sure did. He was unbelievable for a stretch, and that's what superstars can do. They can carry a team when the rest of the team goes into a little bit of a slump, and he did that, and he got the Yankees into the postseason. So we'll find out today, and I know there's a lot of Angel fans that feel like Ohtani deserves it, and I'm not saying they're wrong. They could be right, but we're going to find out this afternoon.
We will find out a lot, like what's going to happen with Ohtani long-term, all that stuff.
Yes.
We will talk to Pep on Monday. Pep, tell him how to get your stuff.
Hey, lock that guy up. Keep him in Anaheim. Get my stuff on Inland Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Still do a little bit of Facebook. You can also get us on the Inland Sports YouTube channel. So hit that subscribe button for us. We'd appreciate it. That's Inland Sports.
Thanks, Pep.